So in today's video we're going to be unboxing this Camduck-508 little mini hidden Wi-Fi camera. So let's get started. So it comes in a pretty small box here, nothing terribly big. So let's just open it right up. And the first thing we see is the device itself. So it's masquerading here as basically a USB wall charger for USB devices. We have a USB-A and USB-C port, both rated for 5 volts and 1 amp on the front there, so 5 watts apparently. And we can see our little microphone inputs right below there for the camera. In fact, the camera is about right here, or so, depending on the light when we look at it. And it does have 2 little LEDs we'll see in there later, both amber and blue. The blue is 4-hour Wi-Fi connection status when it's first powered on, and then the other one is 4-hour memory card status, which if we flip it over you see the little arrows on the side here, and that's because we can pull this cap off and there'll be a little microSD card slot that we can put a microSD card in. Let's go ahead and get the rest of the box unboxed here. So we get another one of these little micro USB card readers, and I did already look at another Camduck product before, the Camduck-508, so I will put a link in the description for that one as well, because we will reference that later on in this video to help out with this. And then here's our little guitar style pick. So let me get this out. So this is what we use to get the back of this off. Get this out here. And there, now that we have the pick, we basically can just put it in a corner, pry up, and then that will pull off our little cover. And there's our microSD card slot for putting in a microSD card for recording. And then inside here is our little Camduck quick start guide for the 508. And like all of these little hidden cameras, they do put a little disclaimer on the back plate here, which I will just reiterate for people. So it says, this device is only for lawful use, prohibited in private areas or for illegal surveillance. Users must comply with federal and state law. So basically that means don't go putting this in your Airbnb rooms or places it's not supposed to be and be spying on people with it that you're not supposed to be doing. Basically just that little disclaimer. But I gotta mention that. So that's the unit there. Basically, again, it looks like a USB charger, because that's what it's acting as the hidden camera for. So let me go ahead and get it plugged in here, put this stuff to the side. And I got a trusty little power cord here. We'll plug it in. And when you first apply power to it, it should start booting up, and then you'll see the 2 LEDs. Should be able to see them right inside there of the USB-C port. So our blue flashing light is our Wi-Fi connection. So this has already been set up on my Wi-Fi, and again I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the Camduck software. So we can see the blue LED is constantly lit. That means it's connected to our Wi-Fi. You should be able to see the amber LED blinking in there. That's our recording status for the memory card. Now, since we don't have a memory card in here, it's just going to be flashing. If we do have a memory card in there, that will go solid when it's powered up, and that will let you know that the device is recording. So this is basically plugged in, hooked up to our Wi-Fi, and it's ready to use. And it's basically got a camera signal going out. So let's go ahead and try to view it in our app. So I've got my iPad here, and we'll use the screen recording mode on it so we can see what's going on. So I will enable screen recording. And we should now be seeing the Camduck program. So I'm going to click start. And we can see the little pop-up from the camera there, which is the top one. The bottom one is the 007 I looked at before, which is not currently got power going to it, so it's offline. So I'll just click the plus or the play button, and there you can see my iPad camera is kind of hovering above it. Plus you can see the camera that we're looking at right here. And plus you can see the top of my head a little bit. So we're currently looking at the ceiling. you can see that it's set for 4K resolution, which is what I recommend you operate this camera on. If I switch it over to 1080p, the quality does go down some, so just go ahead and keep it on 4K resolution. It looks a lot nicer. Other than that, there really isn't a whole lot of configuration you need to do for the camera once you've got it set up. Now, the initial setup process is the same for the Camduck-508, which again, you can look at the link in the description to see the setup for that one. You basically ensure that your device that you're first setting it up on is connected to the 2.4 gigahertz side of your Wi-Fi network. So don't try to connect it through 5 gigahertz or 6 gigahertz. It's not going to work. You got to have it on 2.4. Once it finds it, it'll connect to that, and you'll basically be able to operate the camera. So again, you can look at the Camduck-508 setup portion of its video to see more info on that. So we're in the camera here. If I click the little 3 dots, of course, we can rename our camera and a couple of other things. We can do Wi-Fi configuration, get some camera information like the firmware, MAC address, time settings, SD card settings. Again, no micro SD cards in it, so it's not recording anything to that. It does have the engineering model here, but I don't exactly know what that's for. Maybe Camduck can chime in and give a little insight on that. But that's basically the camera for you. Very simple to get set up. Basically plug and play almost. Just plug it in and open the app and get it set up, and then you're ready to go. So I'm going to pick up the camera here. So we're now trying to look through here and the iPad at the same time. So I will say off the bat, there are 2 things about the Camduck-508 I noticed. One of them is a software related thing, the other is a hardware related thing with the device itself. So we'll talk about the software part since we've got the camera showing here, and I'm going to demonstrate it with this. So right now, the way I have this camera oriented, it would basically look like, you see me there, it would look like if we had the device plugged into a horizontally set up outlet, which you can find in some buildings and dwellings. They'll have the outlets going horizontally instead of positioned vertically. And you can see from the camera image there that we're sideways. So you can see from the camera here, my hand is oriented this way, but it looks like my hand is going side to side on the viewfinder, and that's the one issue I have with this camera. I will go into maximize here so I can get that set up. So the camera always stays in a landscape configuration when you're viewing it through the app. It doesn't exactly have a portrait mode, at least that I can see. And we have 4 different viewing modes. So right now it's got one mode. If I click over here, basically that just turns it 180 degrees, like if it was facing the other way, for instance. And then we have mirrorings, so we can mirror like that. But as I say, and I can see actually my periodic table of elements there, the camera is actually meant for vertically set up outlets like I'm holding it here. And you can see now we can read the periodic table of elements over there just fine. Again, I can do the flip, so if I turn it this way, if I have it in the other way, it'll be right way up. Flip back. And as I say, these modes here are basically just to provide mirrors to those, so depending on orientation. So that's the only gripe I have, and it's kind of a software thing because the software doesn't accommodate for the camera being in a horizontally opposed outlet like this. They've got it set up so it's always supposed to be like that. So that's really the only thing I have software-wise with the camera. Now let's talk about the hardware side of the camera here. So of course, this camera is a USB charger. That's basically what it's hiding as. So you of course plug in USB devices here and you can charge them off of it. So I've got my little USB load tester here. So let me go ahead and plug in to our USB-A port. And I still have the camera software watching at the moment, so we can see our little display, show it off the side there. So we got about 5.1 something volts coming out of here, so it's being regulated. So it does have a little 5 volt switch mode power supply inside. Now that 5 volt switch mode power supply is powering both the camera, but it's also supplying power to the USB ports. Now, this is the one potential hardware issue that this camera has, and I'm going to demonstrate it with the load tester here. So I will start applying current, and we've still got the app going here with the live feed, because I can shake it and you can see there. So even though it says it's 1 amp output, it does share the power output across both those ports. So you could plug something in that can draw more than 1 amp. Typically a lot of phones and tablets will draw up to 2.4 amps at 5 volts, which is pretty much what this thing peaks at. The issue is that when you start getting up to high currents like that, you see we're starting to get some voltage drop. The camera is still working fine, but we're getting it pretty loaded down. If I continue increasing this current to about that 2.4 mark, you see our voltage just kind of dropping off, and then you can see the switch mode power supply just kicked up a little bit to try to get some more voltage out. But if it gets to a certain threshold, see, you probably saw it flash. My camera here has stopped responding on the iPad, and if we look, that's because the camera has lost power. So if you look, it is now searching for the Wi-Fi signal again, because we basically dropped the voltage too low to keep the camera powered, so now the camera has been forced to restart. So because of that, I have to back out of the camera and then relaunch it again. So that is the one hardware issue, is that it doesn't have a way to keep from the camera power getting cut if it gets overloaded on its USB outputs, because it has a shared 5 volt power rail from the power supply in there for both the camera and the USB outputs. Again, it's a minor thing, but it's one of those things to be aware of with this Camduck-508. But really, other than that, there's not much else to talk about. We see the software, we see the camera setup. I showed you the software and hardware side of it. So basically, that's pretty much it for the Camduck-508 hidden spy camera in this little USB charger configuration. Hey guys, Brian here. Do me a favor and click that like button down below, and while you're at it, go ahead and click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content when I post it. See you guys in the next one.